All right, for our self portraits, I just want us to take a picture of ourselves, um, or a friend. It could be um, whoever, but I'm using myself here, and just like everything, finding the top of the page, finding the bottom of the page, holding my Vine charcoal, making measurements. I think with the portraits though, it takes a little bit longer because there's so many different maybe like intersections and places where things line up because there's so many more features. So starting very light, you can notice I'm going for that the eye sockets, and I just sort of put that in. The eye sockets, sort of measuring the nose, seeing how many times I can take the nose and how many times does that fit across the face. So I'm using my own features as measuring tools. So you can sort of see how often I'm measuring things. And I'm measuring, so it's not a still life anymore, so it'd be like how many times, so like I'm measuring the bottom of the nose to the top of the lip and taking that upwards, how many times does that fit going upwards, if that makes sense. And it's the same thing with the eyes, so they say it fits 5 times across usually. That depends on your vantage point. Or that they say that there's one eye of space in between the two eyes. So here I'm taking that measurement. So it's not technically 5 eyes across on each side because I'm sort of tilted my face. And right now, just sort of broke it down into the planes of the face. It's kind of like a square. It's like a cube on that left side, and then the front is the face of the cube. And with the eyes, it's just like anything. There's upward parts of the eyes. There's across parts. I'm just barely getting them in there just so I know the eye is about this big. Here I'm measuring the eyes again. How many times does it fit across the face? Kind of, you notice I'm not staying in one place for very long. I'm moving around because everything is relative in this drawing. And in the drawing process, we compare different, like, we relate everything to each other. If one thing's out of place, it'll be kind of clear. So we kind of say, like, once one thing feels right, we compare it against how far is it from here, how far is it from there, measuring the whole of the mouth, just going from general to specific. So I'm still focusing on the planes. The planes are just getting a little bit smaller. And you can see I'm making notches kind of as I go up and around. Just using all the tools that I have at my disposal from our last drawings. You notice how I'm not making a curve there. Instead, it's multiple lines that create that curve. The whole process is just a series of estimations, and eventually we go with our best guess, So that's why there's so many changes in the drawing over time, and just kind of realizing how things go. There I measured the inside of the eye to the outside of the eye. There's an angle there, so I kind of drew those in, if you can see that. It's not just straight across all the time. And I'm measuring, like I brought where the ear starts and where, if I bring it along from the left to the right, where does it intersect? So around the eye and maybe around with the bottom of the nose. I'm still holding my Vine charcoal pretty, kind of like how we have done all the drawings, kind of just using the straightness of it to help me out. So now I'm getting into like the smaller angles of the nose and still trying to relate them to everything else, if that makes sense. See how I kind of like move it up to see where it would intersect with the eyebrow if I went that way. So I'm making sure that the sort of the back connects from each side of the neck. I think the parts where it can kind of get confusing is when you start to focus on the small things, like I was doing with the nostrils. I was kind of getting lost in that instead of kind of focusing on the overall. So you can see I keep on coming back to them a little bit. But if you have any type of facial hair, you can use that to help you measure. So, how many times the mustache, if you bring that up, where does it intersect with the nose? Just use whatever is there. So now I'm starting to draw in those value shapes a little bit. You can see I did that on the sort of the forehead and the chin and the shadow by the nose area. So now I got my charcoal pencil and I'm just kind of, again, I'm redrawing. I'm not just tracing over what I did. I'm reevaluating. I'm making sure, hey, was that right? It kind of looks a little off. I'm gonna look, and I'm gonna see. But I'm making the drawing a little bit darker here, and kind of going over the lines that I'm starting to feel a little more confident about. I'm still pretty general with the drawing. That's why I'm holding it how I'm holding it. I'm kind of just trying to solidify the main features: the eyes, nose, mouth, forehead. And when I do that, when I use my pinky, I'm just sort of like erasing what I put there. Just kind of brushing off the charcoal if it feels weird. So this whole process is just comparison, comparing, moving things around, measuring. But it's slowly starting to come together and be less abstract of a drawing. Here I'm starting to pay a little bit more attention to, I believe, the shadow values. Or the shapes of where the shadows go, I mean. See how I'm kind of putting my pencil over the image? I'm kind of just like envisioning how that line goes and kind of like moving it up to my paper to try that.